Hiya. Young Crow, Melba Wallum. My name, Kevin Yan, European. Today I am pleased to be here and pleased to see you all here. Yan Mocken, Captain Medical Woodkura, Yay Miller. I would like to pay my respect to our elders, past, present and emerging. I acknowledge their contributions in the past, today and into the future. Ngala Yulakuru, Ngala Kadja, Where Carriage Nijo Dandy, Noongar Buja, Nunakwe Yan Yakaning Way. As we gather here together, let us understand and respect that this is the land of the Wardandi peoples, Noongar, country that you and I are standing and sitting on. Yalakuru, Berik, Nei Karjan, where we're in Barang, Nyalang Buja, Nyan Karjan. May we walk softly, listen carefully, and feel the spirit of our land caring for us. Ngan Jurup, Wanju Nunuk Nalak, Hovadak Noongar Buja, Halyako. It is my privilege to welcome you to our beautiful Noongar country. Always was, always will be. Wanju, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Auntie Melba. I would also like to welcome you on behalf of the Diocese of Bunbury and most especially the community of this, our cathedral, St Boniface. I would like to also welcome you each one of you this morning. Very special Wanju to the elders who are here today. It's an honour and privilege to have you among us on this occasion. Thank you for being here. I also welcome our visitors from other churches, the Deputy Mayor of Bunbury, the group from Bunbury Cathedral Grammar School, and the representatives from the support team of SWAMS, the Aboriginal Medical Service. During the morning I've had many apologies as well, so I thank you for those. My name is Don Reid and I'm a member of the Reconciliation Working Group of the Diocese who have been part of the planning and organising of this event today. I offer sincere apologies and warm greetings from our chairperson, Reverend Jackie, who regrettably cannot be with us today. We certainly could not have done this alone, and we give thanks for God's grace and love, and a big thank you to everyone for their invaluable support and assistance to us in so many ways along the way to reach this point today. It's now my pleasure to introduce our Bishop, the Rt Rev Ian Coutts, for his address, and we have invited Uncle Dennis Jetta to respond.
I'd like to thank you all for coming, for this extraordinary opportunity to say something important from the Anglicans in this part of Australia to the Noongar Elders and community here, and I'm very touched that so many of you have come. I'm conscious that you've had some losses as a community, and we feel for you as you deal with those bereavements. I'd like to add my thanks to those who've come along as guests, because the elders, when we met with you back in June, said, please could some of the other Christian denominations come. So thank you, those of you who've come as pastors and members of other churches in this area and further afield. And thank you to Mr. O'Brien and Rosie and the Cathedral Grammar School and the Indigenous students. It's very precious to have you here. One of the people talking to me just now said this is a bit of a dawning of a new age for Australia, with the start of the Voice referendum campaign in earnest. We had no idea when we planned the date of this event with the elders that it would happen to coincide with that particular announcement. Just wanted to recap very quickly some information that you will all know well in relation to Australia. The events of the past are such that 1967 was the referendum granting citizenship and removing discriminating words and phrases from the Australian Constitution. In 1992, the then Prime Minister's Paul Keating's recognition speech said these words: "Because in truth, we cannot confidently say we've succeeded as we would like to have succeeded if we've not managed to extend opportunity and care, dignity and hope to the Indigenous people of Australia and the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. The starting point might be to recognise that the problem starts with us, non-Aboriginal Australians." And then, of course, there was Kevin Rudd's apology in 2008, where he said, "The time has now come for the nation to turn a new page in Australia's history by righting the wrongs of the past and so moving forward with confidence to the future." And he went on, as you will remember, I've met some who were actually there at the time, Aboriginal people, "For the pain, suffering and hurt of the stolen generations, their descendants and for their families left behind, we say sorry." And the elders, when we met with you, explained how many of you were yourselves members of that stolen generation and how triggering these events can be for you. And so I'm most grateful to the South West Aboriginal Medical Service staff who've also come along today as witnesses, but also as potential supports if you need any. And then, of course, 2017, the Uluru Statement was given to the people of Australia. In the Anglican Church, on the bicentenary, so 200 years after the first settlers came to Sydney, the then Anglican Primate of Australia gave a speech, an apology to the then Aboriginal Bishop in Sydney, and said these words: "And the European people did come, much misunderstanding took place, which caused great suffering to your people, and is still even today having its effect. This has caused a grave breakdown in the culture and lifestyle of your people," and went on to give an apology. And in 1998 in Perth, in their synod, the Anglican sort of parliament, there was an apology given again to a representative of the Aboriginal people in that area. I think this is the first time, though, that we've been able to give an apology to a number of Aboriginal people here in this room at the same time. And Professor Canon, Reverend Canon Professor Glenn Luffrey, who is the chair of the National Anglican Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Council, wanted to be here today because he thought this was such an important event. Sadly, other things have prevented him from being here, but he will be addressing our synod as a keynote speaker in early October, and I'm very glad he's coming again. That's a week ahead of the referendum. It just happened to time like that. But this is what I wanted to say from us today. I too acknowledge the Noongar Elders, and I'm so touched that there are a number of you here in this room, of the past, present and emerging. And I thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you in this part of the diocese. Our intention is that we may do this in some other parts of the diocese in due course. As I said, at the request of the elders, we've invited representatives of the other Christian denominations, and I'm very grateful for the Deputy Mayor Tresslyn being here. As the Bishop of this diocese, the Anglican Diocese of Bunbury, on behalf of the people of this diocese, I want to acknowledge the pain and the suffering of Noongar and First Nations and other First Nations children, and the heartbreak of their parents who were survivors of forced separation over very many years. This separation has led to grievous loss of connection with family and the land, with culture and with language. As I said, even to mention this is triggering to some people in this room who were themselves members of the stolen generation. And again, I thank the South West Aboriginal Medical Service for being present here today. We also acknowledge that the Anglican Church in this diocese failed to challenge the unjust government policies put into action by the then Native Welfare Department, as it was called. We further acknowledge that shameful betrayals and massacres took place at a number of times and in a number of places which happened to fall within the present diocese, and in which it was quite likely that some Anglicans took part. Some known recorded places are Pinjarra and Mininup, but there may be other places not recorded and perhaps known only in the stories and accounts of the elders. All of these acts, I believe, were not consistent with the message of Jesus Christ, who taught love and justice and peace. Nor were they consistent with the second of Jesus' summaries of the two great commandments, that we should love our neighbour as ourselves. You know, when I was still in Canberra, in the archives, somebody was doing some research in the history of the church in Australia, and they found the most wonderful letter by a dear Aboriginal man who had come across the truth of the Bible and had written to the then King of England to express his sorrow and sadness that the way that Aboriginal people were being treated was not consistent with the message of the New Testament. And I have to say with great sadness that letter was returned with a message on it had not been read. And that grieved me. You know, we're humbled by the generosity and magnanimity of the First Nations peoples have demonstrated despite the extraordinary difficulties you have faced. On behalf of this diocese, we offer a heartfelt apology to you, to the Noongar and First Nations people of the diocese, for the pain, violence, suffering and deep sadness of the past to which we as Anglicans may have contributed. In the spirit of the Uluru Statement from the Heart, we wish to join with you and journey together to work for truth, for justice and for healing, and to oppose racism, and to live in keeping with the two great commandments, especially to love our Indigenous neighbours as ourselves. That includes walking with you, sharing and learning from you, respecting and listening to you. We express our sorrow to you for all the times where this has not occurred, and our sincere desire for this to change. Thank you for listening to this. And I'm very touched and privileged that Pastor Dennis Jetta, OAM, is going to make some reply, and I invite you to come here.
Thank you very much.
as you get older, your memory loses a bit, so you've got to write it down on paper, eh? By the way, we're all Noongars. We run from Noongar, this side of Perth, this side of Geraldton, down to Southern Cross and between Esperance and Albury. That's one of the biggest Aboriginal groups in Australia. So, yeah. And I'd like to reply to the Bishop in this way. I feel privileged to stand here today, and as I'm looking out over this country, it's saying to me that our Noongar culture, our Noongar language and our people are finally beginning to be recognised as being a vital part of this community today. Because I see that the theme for this year's NAIDOC week is for our elders. Our elders are making a challenge to all Australians, to individuals, families and communities, organisations and governments to be brave and to tackle the unfinished business of reconciliation so that we can make a change for the benefit of all Australians. That's why I call out to mainstream Australia and Australian governments and people of governments to contribute to a greater healing by our societies today in owning the wrongdoings of the past, claiming true history of Australia, warts and all. However, we cannot do it alone, but collectively as one united Australia, as one united people, despite religious differences, despite cultural differences, despite racial differences, we can do it together. We can change our communities in our country, in our regions, both locally and most importantly, we can demonstrate to the whole world that we are a great nation of people with a culture that demands a common component of mankind, which is the ability to love, to trust and to respect. We are to stand united, and I want to encourage all peoples today to be like that tree, standing in the middle of a bushfire. The leaves are scorched and the tough bark is scarred and burnt, but inside that tree the sap is still flowing, and under the ground the roots are still strong. So like that tree, we have endured the flames and we still have the power to be reborn again. And here I call upon all of us to march together to allow that tree to become green again and to have fruit and prosper, as we cannot do it ourselves. We also need to have faith in the future generations of our people and future government to do the right thing and to carry out the correct steps and to assist us all in retaining our dignity as Australian people, and also to have faith in the many caring Australian people who wish to see justice, care and compassion finally rewarded to the original caretakers of this great country of ours. A common supremacy exists in our daily lives. It's not one religion over another. It's not a different culture or race being superior to another. However, if we can allow the power of love to defeat the love of power, this world would be a better place to live in. Thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for those, well, particularly the Bishop and Uncle Dennis, of course, and that's the end of the proceedings. It's time for ongoing morning tea. Thank you very much.